Welcome in, ladies and gents. This is the Ted Lasso series overview. So, as I just found out, they are doing the season 4. And yes, I know I am late to the party by a couple of years or about 5 years since it first debuted. But I've had Apple TV Plus for a long time. So, it's one of those shows that was, I guess, one of their marketing shows that they utilize to show why you should be on Apple TV Plus. So it's one of those shows where I'm like, I'm Jason Sudeikis. I'm not really into his comedy like that, so I ignored it. And just recently, I don't know what compelled me to watch it, but I guess I just had a gap into the shows and movies and things like that I was into, and so I just picked it up. And immediately within the first two episodes, I was like, okay, why is this dude so just so optimistic all the time, so hopelessly optimistic, so unhinged optimistic, and it's just like, who radiates that type of positivity all the time? Now I have a good friend of mine, who is very positive most of the time, but Ted Lasso beats him by a mile, and I think I need to recommend him to watch this show because it's definitely up his alley. But these are just my initial thoughts of the first three seasons that they've had. So I will be spoiling some things as far as I can remember it. And then obviously there's going to be things that I cannot recall. But nevertheless, here it is. So as we know, Ted Lasso is a middle small town, middle suburban, rural, well, not suburban, but more middle America, rural southern, and I think it's Arkansas that he lives, where he was a football coach there, a little high school football coach, and he had some success there, and now he is in charge of this English football team. Because I mean, when you think about it, you technically kicking the ball with your foot, so it should be football, but we Americans have just taken that, and I don't know, but football just make more sense to us, even though we only kick when the kicker is kicking off the ball or kicking for a field goal. But nevertheless, it's silly semantics. But essentially, as we know, Hannah, the woman who has been newly given leadership and given ownership over this, what they call them, the Greyhounds, I believe, the Greyhounds. She'll be given, over this Premier League team. She'd be given that license because she had recently just divorced her husband Rupert, and part of the, I guess you could say, the alimony and the allocation of the resources that she gets part for being his wife, and obviously him breaking the marriage by his Rupert is one of those characters where he's so charming, but at the same time he is a real, excuse my language, piece of shit. Like, he is one of the worst men that you could ever, one of the worst women. He worse than James Bond, for that matter, because it's like he try to maintain loyalty with the woman, and then at the same time go out and still continues to do infidelity. It's just like, it makes no sense. But nevertheless, obviously, Hannah, not Hannah, Rebecca, excuse me, I'm titling the actress's name. Rebecca inherits what she needs to. She inherits this team from Rupert because, that's part of her alimony that she gets from him cheating and breaking the marriage vows. And so, nevertheless, she hired Ted Lasso with the. I know I got the mustache. I guess you could say I was kind of inspired by that show. But nevertheless, this is how much I love the show. But anyway, we see that Rebecca hires Lasso in order to basically put Rupert's Premier League football team in complete shambles. And so she did it initially as a joke to him, but she obviously, when we all see Lasso for the first time, we just think, well, he's so optimistic, he must be stupid, right? Or he got to be naive as hell. And in some ways he is, but as we know, as the season progresses, he's a little bit more nuanced than that. And so I'm thinking, okay, I'm not gonna like Rebecca, because I'm like, so she basically manipulating this very positive dude just so she can get back at somebody that clearly don't want her anymore. But I understand when somebody betrays you like that, and then some of the stuff that he does throughout this season is just diabolical. Like, you already cheated on her. You already didn't show her that you can pull younger women at your discretion, and now what? And it's maddening. It's truly maddening. Now he obviously Lasso comes with his cohort or his man in tandem with him, a Beard, and so it's comforting to see those two work together as a unit and how they just vibe off each other in synchronicity, as we find out later throughout but I'll get to that eventually. But these are just initial thoughts. Just how him and that dynamic with Beard just works so great, and how they just one and the same. I wish I could have that friendship dynamic. I've gotten close to it where you guys just basically taking each other's thoughts, or when one is offering advice to another, they can already see that you're telling the truth, but they still try to ignore, or they try to find ways to go around the truth that you clearly given them, and they know that your friend knows, the friend that has the truth knows that you know the truth and know that they need to tell you this, but you still try to find a way to avoid that at all costs. So you try to see ways you can maybe have them lessen the blow of the truth, as if it's going to make it any better. But nevertheless, the other characters in the show are great. I mean, we can go for Leslie, who is essentially, he was Rupert's right-hand man, and he was obviously covering all Rupert's affairs and secrets from Rebecca, and so Rebecca was kind of using him as well in the beginning as spite. And so she was like, look, you're going to help me, since she was the one that was covering for Rupert for all his affairs, you're going to help me ruin this franchise for him. And it's crazy. Then obviously the soon-to-be assistant coach, Nathan, who, one thing I love about this show is that how Ted Lasso is able to read people, even though he comes off so aloof at times, or not even aloof, but he comes off, like I said, like he has a form of naivety about him, and as if he's just oblivious to a lot of people's emotions, but he actually is very in tune with people's emotions. And just like the whole notion of what he does, that whole mantra that he goes through every day in order to impress his boss, Rebecca, by bringing her the biscuits that at the beginning, I'm thinking, oh, he going to like the bakery every day and making sure he bringing that particular one. No, you find out later he actually handcrafting that stuff at home, like that attention to detail in order to impress somebody or make an impression on another person, despite whatever position they in. Just shows the type of character that Lasso is. And I guess I didn't realize that Jason Sudeikis written this show, and also the guy with him that's playing Beard, they both wrote this together. And so you can tell with them and their other creative team, they understand character development. And this is the main thing with this show, is like you have the overarching plot with the team, and I haven't even gotten to the team yet, with all the dynamic different personalities just jumping off each other all the time, where you got Roy Kent, he's there, he's here, he's every fucking where, Roy Kent. But then obviously you got Tart, JB, and so him and his dynamic with him and Roy, in the first season, especially when Roy is the more older, veteran superstar who is on his last legs, his prime is over, and then you got the Jamie Tart guy who is the up and coming all-star supreme, who is like, yeah, just get out my way, old man, it's my time now. And then you got as we know, the love interest, the love triangle that's put in between them with Keely, because essentially she started off with Jamie, and I'm thinking when Keely came in, because I know the actress, I've seen her on other type of shows before, and so it was almost, because she usually don't play the type of love interest that I'm used to seeing. And so initially I thought she was going to be just another like celebrity bubblehead type of chick. And so no, like the first season of Ted Lasso is just essentially you getting to understand what these characters core components of who they are is, but you really start to go into depth into these individual characters throughout the end of the first season, but also mainly in the second season. And so here I was thinking Keely was going to be this two-dimensional character, and she has a wide range of depth, and it's incredible. And the other football players on the team, like Sam, who is a standout amongst all the football players, him and Danny, those are two of my favorites in the group. And obviously Roy, who doesn't love Roy? And Jamie is cool. I like Jamie. He's definitely fun, and we see obviously with his background and all the things that he has to deal with to get to the point. And that's one thing. Like I said, every character that you think is almost 1 to 2 dimensional characters, they have a trifecta where that's that extra level within them that you just don't see until the second or third seasons, and you just like, wow, these characters are incredible. Like, because you forget about the main overarching plot that's going on for each season, and you just really start to delve into the character. Nathan, another character who I'm like, okay, he's the quiet, shy, reserved, but he has a level of genius to him. But he's clearly somebody that is not used to getting attention and people acknowledging him, because obviously the other football players, I think his name is Colin and whatever the other two that was helping him with the bullying of bullying Nathan, and we just see like, oh my god, that was the thing about the first season, is like they give you all these stereotype archetypes of these various characters, and then they start to humanize them so much. Even the reporter Trent, like I thought he was just gonna be this obnoxious, pretentious, know-it-all who thinks he's smarter than everybody in the room, and most of the time he is, but he obviously, with somebody with that type of brain power, can also be pretty obnoxious and entitled and conceited. And so I thought he was just gonna be a 1 2 dimensional character. And one thing that I love with Ted Lasso is that with all those different personality dynamics that he has to interact with, he's able to get into the crux of who these people are at their core, and it's incredible. Like, this show is incredible, and obviously, the first season, as it ends with them losing and not even getting, I think, into the Premier League, I believe. And so, but all that character building throughout the first season just makes their interactions together, and makes everything that happened up until that point incredible, and all the development that they all the development that they gathered as individuals. Now it hits its precipice at the end of the season, and then new developments about themselves start to unfold. Like in season 2, with them focusing more so on the mental health perspective by it's just so cleverly bringing in the therapist, who I love that therapist. I believe her name is I forget the doctor's name. I think it's Elizabeth. I think it's Dr. Elizabeth, and yeah, no, it's not Elizabeth. I think her name is, I think it's Michelle. It might be Michelle. I think it's Michelle. I think so. But forgive me if it's not. But I believe that it's Michelle. But yeah, like this show is just, it's incredible. No, actually, her name is Sharon. That's Dr. Sharon. And so we just see, like, in season 2, where the whole dynamics of the family and and how Ted Lasso is dealing with, not only because obviously at the conclusion of season 1, also because I forget to mention Ted Lasso, because it's so many characters to cover in their own personal journeys, you almost forget the titular character that is based on, which is Ted Lasso himself. And obviously he's struggling with coming to accepting the divorce that he had to have with his wife, and she's not happy with just their relationship dynamic. And I don't know, it's because he has that hopeless optimism that she just is so sick of. Like, she just wants him to like yell or something and just be a little bit more negative at times, because I don't know what it is. It's like but at the same time, they were a little poor, so he probably wasn't able to always give her the things that she wanted, but he seemed like to be a really good husband. He also is a great father to his son. And so it was just incredible to see that. And then it was unfortunate to see, like, damn, she just not happy with him. And then you find out later, I think it's season 3, why she broke up with him in the first place. And it's just, that broke my heart, because we see in season 2 that Ted Lasso starts having panic attacks, and we just see how that draws him closer to Rebecca and the things that she's dealing with. And then obviously Keely finds out what Rebecca did too, or how she, in the first season, when she tried to show that Lasso and Keely were getting together and try to start some extra drama between them, and just furthermore try to embarrass Lasso as much as possible. But and it was so crazy because it's just like Rebecca was starting actually to like Lasso, and you could tell she was regretting that decision that she did, but she was hoping she wasn't gonna get caught. And Leslie, gave her the ultimatum like, look, you either tell him what you did or I'm out of here, because I'm not about to. Because Leslie started to like him, and obviously with Leslie and Beard and Nathan and Lasso, they formed that Diamond Dogs thing. Diamond Dogs. But we see that dynamic. But it's just like all those little character building moments, and obviously the things that's happening with the other football players, like when they introduced Danny, with him being kind of almost like sort of competition to Jamie, and that was kind of making Jamie a little uncomfortable, seeing that somebody else can actually, is pretty good as well. Then Sam was getting ready to take his rise, and he was like that that late first round pick that is still raw and fresh, but got a lot of talent, but it hasn't been refined yet because it's not as natural to them as it is to somebody that's of a higher pick. But you can tell that's there. But with the right development, the right coaching, and time and preparation, they'll be able to become what they could essentially be. And so it's good to see Sam, just constantly make his evolution. And obviously in season 2, everybody started getting freaky with each other. Jamie and Keely, because Jamie was full of himself in the first season. He was still being obnoxious and a little boy at times, but we understood. And then by the end of season 2, why he was how he was. And so we just see, obviously, Keely get with Roy, and Ted Lasso gets with Rebecca's roommate, who I think they actually have good chemistry, and I hope in season 4 they tap more into that. But yeah, just seeing like Ted Lasso actually had to deal with mental health and dealing with panic attacks and all type of stuff. And then obviously we see Nathan's decline into madness and feeling emboldened and becoming more conceited, or just being more selfish and feeling entitled to everything now. It's one of those things where he was the ugly duckling that is now starting to get attention, but all that ugliness that's still with him, all that resentment and the hatred that he has towards people that's always put him down, he's starting to bubble up to the surface, and now he's got this big old head about himself. And it's just like, and then obviously he does what he does, and then he becomes the villain essentially. I think he does that towards the end of season 1, and I think no, he does it at the end of season 2. He becomes the basically villain of season 3. But they do in season 3, they cut the season, because I think it was the longest season, because I think season 1 is like 10 episodes, season 2 I believe is like 10 or 12, and then season 3 is the longest one. And they kind of cut season 3 into like this act 1, act 2, act 3, as opposed to the first season, where I just felt like it was this continuous thing, and it was focusing, and everything was happening in between that one singular story. Whereas season 3, they was focusing on like 3 different story types. And then obviously season 2 was more so focusing on the interpersonal complications that each character has to struggle with. Obviously Roy feeling less than himself, or feeling less than, because Keely was now starting to become more than just this hot celebrity girl. She created her own business, the Banter dating that thing, and got that popping off. And then Roy starting to feel insignificant in that relationship, and just all type of things. Like I said, these are just my initial thoughts, and I don't want to be too long-winded with all this, and because those who watch the season, you know exactly what happens throughout the rest of the show. And for those who haven't, for some of the things that I've spoiled for you guys, this is just, I've only given you like a third of what you can uncover in this show, and I really don't want to spoil anything else for you guys. But yeah, I think you guys, if you have not watched Ted Lasso, if you don't even have Apple TV Plus, this will be a show. It's only $10 a month, and so this will be one of those shows. Like, I know they got Severance, and I Love Foundation, and I think it's Presumed Innocent, and what's the other show that's on there that I loved? I used to watch C with Jason Momoa. But yeah, just Apple TV Plus and Monarch and all other stuff. Even the studio right now with, I believe, Seth Rogen, that's a pretty good show. So Apple TV Plus is basically becoming a cheaper version of Max. And so, and Max or HBO has the high quality TV. And so this Apple TV Plus is no different. So yeah, Ted Lasso is amazing. The characters are phenomenal. I believe this is probably one of the greatest ensemble pieces of shows I've ever seen in my entire life. And I've seen a lot of TV shows. This will probably go into my top 5 all time. And I've only watched it once, and that's all I needed to know. Because this show and these characters are so incredible, and I love it. I love this show. And I think you guys should check it out who haven't watched it, and those of you who have watched it, let me know what you think about it. And yeah, that's it. Peace.